Cardinals baseball, World Baseball Classic. A couple of those Team USA games were pretty dang exciting, especially Venezuela. No doubt. A lot of great TV watching over the weekend.
I didn't look at their team stats, but Trey Turner, who had a big night last night also, seems like he might be MVP, but my kid said he hadn't had a great tournament, but seems to be killing it. I mean, he had the grand slam on a 0-2 pitch or something like that, facing a guy. I'll be honest, I can't remember his name, but I did Google him.
Quijada from the Angels?
Yeah, he had given up 19 major league homers.
I'm sorry, that was Quijada was the guy who loaded it up.
Right.
Yeah.
Who was the guy that, since you're naming names?
The righty. Bracho? Braco?
Yeah,
Bracho.
One of those names. 19 big league home runs he had given up. You got to think, in that situation, you got a better option.
Well, everybody knows him.
Matty Whitener, what's up?
19 homers in like 90 innings or something. That's a lot of homers.
Decent odds.
And so the pitcher before, though, which is Quijada, however you pronounce it.
Is that his name or?
That's his last name.
However you pronounce it?
Well, it could be Quijada. I'm not trying to...
I didn't know if his first name was Quijada.
No, I just don't know how to pronounce it.
Oh, okay.
I believe it's Quejada.
I spent a lot of time like that this weekend. No worries.
Sometimes I watch games without the volume on. That's no targeting of any broadcaster. Sometimes I just have the game on, doing other stuff. But I did see the inning before when he had that strikeout. I mean, he had the biggest celebration I've ever seen. And I think Team USA also saw that. He did a full-on WWE, almost did the crotch grab. He went crazy. And then the next inning, he's the pitcher that essentially loaded up the bases before the Trey Turner grand slam.
It was quite a weekend for bases loaded situations.
It
was. Yeah. You see a guy do that, he gets fired up, you look over, you're like, oh, okay. That's just one of those times where you make eye contact with the boys. You're like, okay, all right, we'll see.
And then last night against Cuba, a team that I think not as good as some of the other teams that did get through. I think the Americans were heavily favored, but I did the thing that you're never supposed to do. So I'm sitting there. I was telling them that I went to one of those hibachi places where they flip the food on your plate.
Oh, my, that was a treat.
And I wanted to watch Team USA, but we had made the plans, and I don't want to be that guy. So under the table, I'm watching the game. Let's see. Bueno with bases loaded.
Wait, just the phone, not you under the table. Like you didn't descend underneath the table.
Like I got my phone, and I'm watching the game, trying to, this is great. I just want to watch it, and I was like, and then I'm getting texts from friends of mine, are you seeing this? Bueno could be done. And I'm looking, and it's like, all right, the game just started, right? Bases loaded, but he gets out of it in the first inning, gives up a run, and then he settled in. 4 innings, 1 run. Finally, Miles Michaelis got to pitch, which is good. He worked 4 innings, gave up a bunch of hits, but just 1 earned run. Goldie continues to mash. He had a home run, and the Team USA advanced. It's just a weird thing. Like I started to see some criticism of the pitching management. The Michaelis wasn't happy when he was warming up and then wasn't used and then said, I can't pitch now. It's a tough spot for any manager at the World Baseball Classic because you're dealing with major league pitchers who are trying to stay on some sort of routine. But it came sort of to the forefront. But I'm glad to see Michaelis pitch. I'm glad to see Waino pitch because these are guys that the Cardinals might need going forward.
I watched that first inning. Well, I didn't watch it in real time because I was watching the tournament. I kind of there was like a 3 TV thing going on, and it was like over my shoulder.
3 TV?
I wasn't at home. There was a lot of stuff going on. I've got 2.
Where were you at?
Well, hanging out.
The spot.
You can't even say?
I was at the place because I know what's going to happen. You're going to say something, then he's definitely, back here is definitely going to say something.
What, with Nelly or something?
No, he wasn't there that day.
So where is it?
I was at the Ritz.
Okay.
See?
I'm sure they have a big ballroom set up.
Cigar bar.
It's a cigar bar.
Okay.
There's different TVs.
Nothing wrong with that.
Well, there's nothing wrong with it, but I'm going to get beaked for it, though. So, anyway.
Wait,
mark
before
this
you
down.
do that, I got to know this because my buddy goes there, too.
Yeah.
Like, is it really expensive to get a beer there?
Not really.
Like, is it more expensive than it would? Because
It's less than Busch Stadium.
It's a club, right?
Yeah, it's a club.
You got to be a member.
Yeah.
So you'd think, all right, well, to be a member, they got to make the cost back.
I think they make that cost on the memberships.
Right.
they had. I mean, it's not, it's not two for whatever, but I mean,
Right.
you pay for where you're at a little bit, not too much though. But the good thing was there wasn't a lot of people there, so I was kind of like, I need you to throw this game here, that game there, and that game up there. So we had 3 different things going on. But I watched. I say all that to say is that I watched the later innings there. But I got home and watched the front end of the game. And Waino was just in a bunch of bad luck.
100%.
I mean, when you say, oh, he gave up 5 hits, I mean, did any of them make it to right field combined? If you hit all 3 of those hits and put it into one hit, it would have been a blooper in the right field.
Yeah, I think the second inning he gave up a hard hit ball that did reach the outfield. I was the exact same way, by the way, because I was going on a walk with my family, and I had the game DVR'd. And by the way, before the game started, I didn't feel great about Waino pitching in this game. I'm just being honest. But then I looked at the Cuba lineup.
No, they're not good.
And I was like, this is not that good of a team at all. So I get back, and just like you said, it was already 1-0, bases loaded.
Right.
And I'm thinking, oh no, this dude's getting hit around. And then you go back and look, it was a play Tim Anderson should have made. It was a couple balls, like one Waino should have fielded. It was literally 3 infield singles or plays that should have been made. He was not hit hard at all. Now, I think you still can be concerned about an 83-mile-an-hour fastball here and there, but he was not hit hard in that inning whatsoever. And he was a veteran bulldog-like presence to get out of that with 1 run.
He's the guy on the staff, him and probably Lance are the 2 guys on the team that I'd look at and say, oh, they'll find out a way. Because what I didn't think was going to happen was somebody's going to turn around and take one over the fence on Waino. It's just about making sure you keep the damage to a low and don't give up, that 2-run single or anything like that. Question I've got, and I could go back and look at how everything lined up, is how was that Cuba team there? Like, what was in the regional or whatever they were in that allowed that to be the team that came out of it when the Dominicans already at home and some of these other power, like, we need to understand the geographic setup that they do of some of these things. You have, North America playing against North America. We need to spread this thing out some. We've had enough World Baseball Classics where there need to be tiers of countries now so that there's more equitable.
Who did Cuba beat?
Was it Australia in the knockout?
Well, that explains it.
I can't remember, to be honest with you.
Top 5 Australian baseball players of all time. Go.
So Graham Lloyd's in there,
Yep.
the closer for the great closer, formerly of the A's.
He was good for a long time.
Well, he's hurt now. The awesome closer.
Liam Hendricks. He's
Liam
not
Hendricks.
hurt. No, he's hurt. Cancer.
He's great.
Cancer.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
So
both.
He's out.
Maybe he's hurt too.
Any position players Australian?
Yeah, well, see, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, but you can also see the whole thing with the World Baseball Classic. Like, I didn't know until you're just on Twitter. You're reading a couple articles here and there. I didn't know about all the protests with Cuba. And apparently this is the first time that the major league players are allowed to play. And it's also weird because some of the guys don't want to play for Cuba. Apparently, Aroldis Chapman. And then I just read this story the other day about Randy Rosarena. I don't know if you guys read this, but his story of leaving Cuba is insane. He leaves Cuba, and he's basically housed in Mexico by some shady folks who then, when he's coming over, are trying to get a piece of his money because they helped get him out of Cuba. And so this guy really doesn't have any Mexican history, but he essentially lobbied the government of Mexico over the last year to allow him to become a citizen because he left Cuba to go to Mexico before he came to the United States so that he could play in the World Baseball Classic. Because when I was watching that game, I'm thinking, Randy Rosarena for Team Mexico. And then that's the reason. He left Cuba, but Mexico is where he stayed while he tried to get in the United States. And so he lobbied the government to become a citizen because he wanted to play in the World Baseball Classic.
Wow.
So Cuba has a great baseball tradition, but also a great tradition of oppressing its citizens. And while relations are more normalized now, I could see if you are a Cuban-born player that got out, probably don't want to represent Cuba.
Yeah, no. It's one of those things where I like my people, but not all those people. Like,
Not the people.
I got pride for my family, but not pride for the country. And completely understandable in that case. Pulled up Team Australia, which looks like it might have similar issues. Maybe I haven't heard about widespread oppression in Australia, but hey, That could be the case. We've got 9 major league affiliated players that are all minor leaguers on this. Luminaries like Alex Hall. Who could forget him? Jared Dale.
Oh, yeah.
Robbie Glendendigging.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, this is an upset. I'd say that Cuba took these guys out.
Well, the fact that Dominican doesn't even make it through pool play, I mean, that shows. That team, I think, was the favorite along with the United States. And Japan's up there, too. But Dominican was certainly one of the
top
favorites.
3. Those are the top 3. Here's the thing.
That's a team you don't want to face. But you'd rather face a Dominican than Japan, correct? I mean, you'd rather face Japan than the Dominican Republic.
Japan's actually got pitchers they've got like the real Japanese pitching staff going though.
Yeah, if you ask me that on paper,
then there's Newt. I mean,
right? I would say if you look at the rosters, I would say 100% I'd rather face Japan. Except for some reason, Japan, I feel like they care so much about this and they build their team for this. It's like they always do really, really well in this tournament.
They
care about it.
This is like dream team basketball for Japan. This is our chance right now. Put everybody out there. The fact that Otani's pitching and hit, I didn't think there was any way in hell he'd pitch. But I mean, he's out there doing it all.
I'll tell you what, too. In March, I read another article about Scott Boras about essentially before his clients go to the WBC, he sends them a list of all the injuries in the past of people from the WBC. And look, I get it, too. I would want to play for my country as well. Otani, though, looking at potentially $500 million contract, I give those guys a lot of credit. And look, the World Baseball Classic is cool. It's been fun to watch it. There also have been some injuries, which is part of it. Now, there's going to be injuries in spring training.
One was
celebration. We get that. I mean, Altuve, if you're an Astros fan, you don't love that. But look, you can get hurt in spring training as well. You can get hit very easily. In the Grapefruit League, they got AA guys throwing 100 miles an hour at your hands as well. So you can get your hand broken in a Grapefruit League game.
Now, I do sense from reading various commentaries on the World Baseball Classic, there was some shade thrown at American baseball fans that we don't embrace it the way other countries do. And I think that's sort of unfair because these are players that are playing in Major League Baseball representing your teams.
Yes.
So it's almost like you're lending. Now, don't get me wrong, because I think overall this thing was great. I loved it. And I think a lot of people that maybe didn't love it before got caught up in it, maybe more than they thought. So it's a good thing. But I think it's fair to say if you're a Mets fan, you're unhappy, right? If you're an Astros fan, you're unhappy. Like, I get why it's not fully embraced in some quarters because fans want to root for their team.
Well,
Major League fans. I get that.
And while we're in this neighborhood, if you're a Cardinals fan, you're almost unlucky too. If you would have chased down the Altuve injury that happened, and then Arenado, who got swung, foul ball, however you looked at it, in a pretty similar situation, I had the heart stop for a second when I saw that. Because anytime you see a guy take that swing and then he just walks out of the box because his hand got hit, you should stop a beat for a second. I think the Cardinals dodged a bullet right there in a major way, in the middle of a very Cardinal-driven game. So I mean, that was a really rough way to see that. And then let's go back. We're used to it here now. Arenado with a hell of a play on Saturday, infield in. Mm-hmm. We've seen it a million times here, but I mean, it still doesn't get old. Just the reflexes he's got, the attitude afterwards. I mean, one thing that's really impressed me with Team USA has been they've played energetic baseball, which you don't hear all the time. Like, you see what Trey Turner's done, the timing of it. What Arenado has done, how he's played. I mean, Mike Trout had a tough Saturday, but I mean, overall, been doing what needs to be done there. Tim Anderson, you brought him up. That's been a guy who's been a little rocky at shortstop over the years, but he might have found a way by demonstrating what he's done at second base in the Classic that could benefit him longer term at that spot anyway.
And you mentioned Arenado. He's I know this is an obvious statement, but he's so freaking good defensively. And the play he made in that first inning last night, that's not a play that every third baseman makes. With the bases loaded, he cut the runner down at home plate.
Yeah.
And saved a run. Now, again, did it really matter? They destroyed Cuba. But if you just turn that game on, right, if you turn that game on early, that game very easily could have been 3-4 zip, and it's a totally different ball game. So give Waino all the credit in the world because, again, now that I think through it, it was It was the shot to Anderson, not hit hard. It was the swunt, the swinging bunt. I mean, it was hit 50 feet up the first baseline, and then it was another just trickler that Waino was probably thinking about turning to and missed it. I mean, there was nothing hard hit. Even though the dude's throwing 86, there was nothing hard hit in that first inning.
I don't know if we have the Waino sound yet. We got it. Let's hear from Waino.
Let's hear from the man himself.
We kind of went out of order because we were going to do Mizzou, but we kind of jumped.
No, well, we don't have to.
This was organic.
I keep fumbling for words when people ask me that. I've never had this much fun playing baseball in my entire life. I've never got to play for my country before, so I think that has a big reason behind why I'm having so much fun. Watching and listening to people chant USA the entire time you're playing baseball, that's a wild feeling, man. I've never had that before. Last night and tonight, two loudest crowds I've ever seen in baseball. I mean, it's just amazing what we're getting to be experiencing right now.
Adam Wainwright right there. I watched that clip. Did you see how small the microphone was he was holding?
It looked like a Howard Cosell.
What is that? I don't get it. I mean, it was literally a baby microphone. It's almost like a little lav mic that you would put on your shirt or lapel, but it had a little mic flag. It was the weirdest looking thing.
Yeah, international waters and whatnot. I don't know. We'll see.
It was here, though.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, you got to account for what everybody's used to.
By the way, just because I did butchered names, the gentleman for Venezuela is Jose Quijada, who pitches for the Angels.
Yeah, he's a familiar.
He had the big strikeout, went crazy, but then loaded him up the next inning to allow Silvino Bracho was the one who gave up the grand slam to Trey Turner. Silvino Bracho last pitched for the Braves last year.
Look at
just
how
a little bit.
Look at his home run totals that he's given up. I mean, he was a gopher ball just waiting for a place to exist, and he found it on the biggest stage. Charlie, this is from Sharon on the text line. Charlie, the demonstrative celebration was definitely bulletin board material. Big mistake. Morning, boys. Happy Monday. Miss Cam, where the heck is he? Again, that's from Sharon.
He's at the World Baseball Classic, too.
He's on the Gulf side, correct? He's over, I think, Rosemary Beach.
I think he's waiting to see if the boys need him on Tuesday, though.
For sure.
Yeah. Get Cam in the mix.
So,
Maybe you can get Cam to run across the outfield like a Cuban protester.
So I
flag.
stopped watching after a couple innings. Once I feel, okay, this game is...
After a couple of protests or a couple of innings?
No, I saw pictures of the protest on Twitter. But again, once I saw Waino get through it, and the United States just responds right back, Paul Goldschmidt with a home run. And I'm not going to lie, I just kind of looked at the Cuban lineup. The United States position players are unbelievable. How many of those dudes are going to be Hall of Famers? Think about that. So Mookie Betts probably will be a Hall of Famer.
Yes.
Mike Trout,
yes.
Hall of Famer.
Already.
Very good chance. I mean, Arenado's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yes.
Paul Goldschmidt has a very good chance to be a Hall of Famer.
Yes.
Probably.
It's early. Trey Turner could be a Hall of Famer. Who am I missing?
Well, give me a second.
Schwarber probably not Hall of Famer.
Softball Hall of Fame.
He will be with Billy Butler.
Speaking of softball, Cuba's uniforms with the red pants, straight out of beer league softball. And by the way, how about the one dude they got who's their all-time leading home run hitter in the Cuban League? I mean, that's a big boy. I mean, he looks like a softball player. He's got red pants, and he's got a huge gut, and he just goes out there and just rakes. Just hacking.
Let's while we're touting the locals, I mean the local team for the country, let's tout the local guy.
Let's do it.
Devin Williams, big inning on Saturday as well when it was needed.
He was filthy.
I mean, just nasty. I mean, what he does with that changeup is just on another planet. Cedric Mullins had a big shot last night, even after it was all said and done. That's a guy that you hear get floated around a bit back when the who can we pick off of a bad team days.
Future Cardinal?
Yeah.
Probably not anymore.
He's in the future Cardinal outfield right now with that. So, yeah, I mean, it was I gotta say, though, I'm not about the robo-ump. I'm not quite that far. But the ump on Saturday, call that strike zone like Mike Trout's at the plate. You know, when they showed it, and it was nearly at the top of the S in USA, I was like, wait a minute, what are we doing here? To his credit, he called it bad on both sides. But, I didn't love that. That made that game a little more maybe that was the script he got. We got to set this up for Trey Turner to be the hero. But here's the question. Can Trey Turner hijack Captain America from Mike Trout at the end of this? We've never had a Captain America hijacking.
Okay, so Mike Trout had some huge hits in the previous games. Look, unless Trey Turner, who he does have the World Series with the Nationals.
He does.
2019. But can you have a bigger hit unless he has an amazing home run in a World Series game? And we all know the World Series is more important than the World Baseball Classic. But it's hard to beat when you're down for your country, hitting a freaking game-winning grand slam. And Adam Wainwright said it. He said, this is the most fun I've ever had playing baseball. Like, you can't deny, whatever you think about the World Baseball Classic, whether they should or shouldn't, injuries and all that, you can't deny the fans are crazy for it in the ballpark.
Well, Waino also said, this is the craziest baseball atmosphere I've ever been in, which I was like, ho.
That's, I think, what makes it.
And the most fun he's ever had.
Yeah, that's what makes it special. You mentioned, Matt, the energy that you see from Team USA. I mean, Nolan Arenado said it. Like, he said, you put on your Team USA jersey and your heart skips a beat. You know, like, that's Nolan Arenado saying that, the guy who is, pretty steely, when it comes to big moments. Yeah, it's obvious that it means a lot to him. And to be honest, if you're going to risk yourself health-wise and your career for that, it better be important to you.
And I think that's why you'll continue to see guys go. Because, I mean, like, look back to when we talked to Matt Holliday last week, and he talked about that. I mean, it's been, many, many, many years since he played for Team USA, but you could tell it was still something that, like you heard the jump in him when he talked about it. That's why I don't worry about the viability of it. The Altuve injury, that sucks. Arenado escaping what could have been a serious injury, that's fortunate for St. Louis. Salvador Perez on Saturday, he got a foul ball off his hand, and then Kyle Tucker's follow-through hit him on the same hand. I was like, good Lord, if you're the GM in Kansas City, you're like, get him out of there. You got 3 more catchers on the team. Get them out. But I think the injuries get overstated. I think we talk too much about what could go wrong by playing in the WBC and don't focus on all the good that happens for these guys and for the sport that needs that excitement.
Right. And it's fun baseball where you can break down a Grapefruit League game, but it's a Grapefruit League game. These are fun games to watch, and there's some good storylines and some good opportunities to kind of debate what's going on. Like, for example, Mark DeRosa starts Lance Lynn in the first knockout game, which I 100% agreed with. Lance Lynn pitched a lot better than Adam Wainwright. So Adam Wainwright was disappointed, but he comes back, he gets the ball in game 2, and pitches really well. But Mark DeRosa, who I love, by the way, I think he's unbelievable on television, and I do think he'll probably be a big league manager. I know he interviewed for the Mets job several years ago. I think down the road he will be a big league manager, but he's had some rough innings. The whole Brady Singer thing early on, which I do think you're in a tough spot because these teams want your pitchers to throw a certain amount of pitches. And then the Daniel Bard thing, he let that get out of hand on Saturday. He really did.
Almost looked like he didn't know what to do.
And almost lost
the game.
On
his face.
They could have easily lost the game based on his handling of Daniel Bard. Now, give Trey Turner all the credit in the world for the grand slam, but they could have lost that game.
Now, does the WBC carry the pitcher substitution rule? Like, do you have to do three batters unless it's an injury? Or I don't know, because I know the shift is still in play. So I don't know which version of the rule book they're
No
using.
pitch clock.
So no pitch clock. I mean, I know that before this year, though, I mean, we're in, year 2 or 3 of the 3-batter minimum? I just don't know if Bard had to stay in or not. I wasn't sure about that.
I'll be honest, like, of all the people that were happy about the grand slam by Trey Turner, DeRosa was probably number 1 on the list because it took the attention off him and kept him moving forward. So, I mean, I don't know if you saw, but there was a lot of blowback on DeRosa's handling of the pitching. Mm-hmm. And then you have the Michaelis thing if you're watching it from a Cardinal perspective, not really happy with his usage. That made everything good again, that grand slam.
And so I think we'll win this. But when you look at the position players for Team USA, they're incredible. Mm-hmm. When you look at the starting pitchers, though, again, all due respect, they are starting Merrill Kelly in the championship game.
Well, is there anybody else you had in mind that could be pitching this game? Of all the pitchers in America, is there anybody else
Can we bring in a Scherzer or Verlander just for the championship?
We got Merrill Kelly.
Okay, no.
What do you want that for?
I'm not hating.
Okay.
I get it why some of these pitchers, especially if you're 40 years old, you're making... Look, Steve Cohen just dropped $500 million+ in the offseason. I understand you want to stay healthy. All I'm saying is, in a championship game, I'm not loving Merrill Kelly, but I think the Team USA lineup is just incredible.
You know who's got an option? Pitching a lot of big games. Maybe he's got a little in him. Andy Pettitte. Andy Pettitte is with the club. Maybe we can get him involved.
He looks the same as he did in his last year or two in Major League Baseball.
You know who else looked good off the bench? Ken Griffey Jr.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that.
And who else? Who else took BP?
Dave Rietti, maybe?
How about Brian McCann?
Oh.
I didn't notice that. There wasn't as much fanfare for that as there was for Ken Griffey.
But he also, apparently, Brian McCann took BP and hit a dinger. And then Ken Griffey Jr. had to do the same.
Did Michael Young get in the mix?
I don't know.
Michael Young probably hit a double in the right field, and the crowd just said, "This, we've had enough. This is too much excitement for me."
Nice double, a hustle double in the gap. Hey, let me check my notes real quick here. Let me check Cam's notes, my notes.
It's time to
Just
get your
notes.
mind right with Cam's Notebook, presented by Block Dispensary on 590 The Fan.
Brought to you by Block Dispensary. 2 locations. We've been to both for remotes. Valley Park, they got the drive-through out there. Richmond Heights, right across from the Galleria. Block Dispensary. Stock on up for NCAA tournament, for the championship game of the World Baseball Classic. Anything on the text line? Do you guys want to take an early break? We can come back and really focus on Mizzou.
No, we don't have
and
to.
NCAA tournament talk.
Let's do the text line.
Text
I'll
line,
read
go
a
ahead.
couple, and then we'll gather ourselves, and we'll have full momentum.
Sure.
Going into our Mizzou segment. This is from microbiologist Jack. I'm pretty sure KFC Barstool is still pooping his diaper over the Diaz injury. He also said Jack looked great. Jack gave up a lot of hits. And Nasty Nate said, good thing this guy didn't write the script. It could be a 12-hour movie. I don't know, maybe that came from yesterday. So we got to get people on the text line. We don't have a ton of them at this point.
Get them in. I believe, though, before we break and or switch over to Mizzou talk, we have our guy Randall on the phone. Randy, good morning.
Hey, how you guys doing there?
Good, you?
Hey, let me ask you guys a question there. Was there a Cuban pitcher named Luis Tiant that looked like a Minnesota Fats back in the 80s? Remember that guy?
Louis Tiant, yes, is a Cuban hurler. Was
Is that what he said, Louis Tiant?
Yeah, Luis Tiant. Then he used to do the 360 whirl and then look up at the sky and didn't know where the ball was going. Was that the guy?
Cat, is that my
Sure.
All I know is Louis Tiant had a deceptive windup that made him an effective major league pitcher forever.
Right.
That guy pitched forever. And
Yeah.
if you were a kid pitching at that point in your life, you probably had a windup like Louis Tiant.
He was the precursor to Hideo Nomo,
Yes.
whom everybody tried to do in the 90s
That's
as
true.
a kid.
That's true.
Right. Well, my question though to you is, as far as the World Series thing and all that kind of stuff, if you're not American, who do you support, or who would you like to win? If you don't say United States.
Well, at this point, we're running out of options. So
No, you root for, like, if it weren't Team USA, you'd probably root for Japan because of Newt, right? You probably find a team that has
and future Cardinal Shohei Ohtani.
one of your guys on there, and you root for that team.
Right. What about Lars Nootbaar? Is he on the Japanese team, or what team is he on?
He's on Team Japan.
Oh, Team Japan. Okay. Hey, by the way, what is the ratings been for the World Series here in the United States? I mean, they don't follow unless it's a local team. They're not going to.
It's
really
the World
follow it.
Baseball Classic. The World Series is the championship of Major
I mean,
League
yeah,
Baseball.
right. The world, or whatever you call it. I'm saying, what are the ratings here in St. Louis or nationwide? Do you know?
All I know is I saw a tweet that said attendance for the World Baseball Classic, just the cumulative total of fans showing up was more than the A's drew all of last season.
That's a good question, though. Look at that.
That
The WBC is up 39% from 6 years ago, and probably due to being on station that people have easier access to for these games.
Right.
Here. Average 1.4 million on Fox games on Fox.
That's great. And you would think, too, overseas, the ratings were even higher. I mean,
46% of Japan watched a game.
Right?
That's
I mean, this
a good
is-
number of people.
this is something, if it gets big ratings here, that's great, but it's also a bigger piece to the puzzle is the rest of the world Unity, baseball.
That game involved America. The highest ranking non-American game was Puerto Rico versus the DR that had just shy of 950K on that one.
Wow.
On a Friday night, by the way.
Yeah. By the way, but Lieutenant Governor, you always talk about unity.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question there. Is the ACES in unison as far as what you have to say? And thanks a lot. Have a good show.
All right.
Great question.
In my stance, which is controversial,
Sure.
that the word unity isn't used enough in today's society and should be used more, because what it leads to is a feeling of togetherness and common ground. So I'm for unity. So Deus, are you also
Excellent,
unity?
Mr. Lieutenant
Charlie, are
Governor.
you,
I am pro unity.
Seth, you unity guy?
Absolutely.
All right. Nate, we good with unity?
Of course.
All right. This is a unified Deus in terms of unity.
So I got, let's see, World Baseball Classic nears tournament highs on FS1. So they had 981,000 viewers for U.S. Colombia. That was up, as Matt said, 39% from 6 years ago, which was on MLB Network.
That helps.
So, again, like, you have a Warriors-Clippers NBA regular season game, average 1.73 million viewers on ESPN, which is also cable. So the ratings are up. Now, people, look, you have a lot to watch. You have NCAA tournament. You got Battlehawks game, right? You got STL City, if you're talking about St. Louis. There's a lot going on a Saturday night.